Wow, okay, I'm finally doing it. Welcome, you person, to the very first Conscious Club podcast hosted by yours truly, Areej. Some of you might know me as Areej from my YouTube, but yeah, my real name is actually spelled Areej, like Areege. I don't know why I'm talking about that. I think there's just a part of me that gets bothered when when people message me and they write Areej with like as my YouTube name. They're like, "Hey Areej, Uhreej," and I'm like, "That's not my name. That's like a weird YouTube thing that I did back when I was insecure about my name and I wanted people to be able to remember it, so I tried to make it phonetically rememberable. Does that make sense? But yeah, so if you're listening to this on an audio, I am filming a video that I will be posting to my YouTube channel because I personally, like, I'm going this extra mile just because I personally really, really, really prefer podcasts that I can watch if I want to, you know? Because just the way that my lifestyle is, I don't really like whenever I watch a podcast, like I want it, or whenever I consume content, like I kind of set time aside to do that. And yes, like sometimes I'll listen to podcasts when I clean or cook, but I don't know, like when I do activities, I kind of want them to just consciously focus on that one activity. So if I'm cooking, I just want to cook and pay attention to the ingredients. And when I clean, I want to make sure I'm doing the right thing doing it right, and just like feeling all the satisfaction of like, like when something's dusty and you wipe it and you're like, wow, what an amazing difference. That is what I like to focus on. So back to my point, I don't like listening to podcasts just audio because I prefer watching them video. So that was a long way to say that for your preference, I will have this podcast on both my YouTube channel when possible. Of course, I'm sure there might be instances where it's not really possible for me to film. In that case, I'll just post an audio, but for the most part, I will try my best to post a video as well and kind of kill two birds with one stone and get some YouTube content up while also getting some podcast content up. And yeah, so if you are watching the video, you might notice that I'm sitting next to a window. And that is because Garrett and I are currently at the cottage again. And if you follow me on Instagram, my Instagram handle, for those of you that don't know, I am most active on Instagram, by the way. So like in the past couple of months, I've been kind of, I haven't really posted as frequently to my YouTube channel. And if that ever happens, you can be sure that I'm still going to be active on Instagram. So if you really want to keep up with me and you miss my content, I'm not posting it to the YouTube, 100% follow me on Instagram. It is at areege.c, at areege.c. And yeah, so if you do follow me there, you probably know that Garrett and I just welcomed a brand new pupperino to our home, to our family. Her name is Luna. It's so freaking cute. She is so cute. I was gonna say she's so black, but she is. Like, her fur is it's not fur. I think it's technically considered hair because of the breed she is, but she's covered in black fur and it's the cutest thing ever. And the reason I named her Luna is because when I was younger, I was a huge Sailor Moon fan. And, I forget her name, Sailor Moon, her name, like her non-transformed identity, like her, I think it's like Celine or Celeste, or I don't know. Maybe I'm completely wrong, but that's besides the point. So I got Luna, I named her Luna because Sailor Moon had a little black cat that she named Luna, and that has been my dream ever since I've been a kid. And of course, I would have gotten a cat, but however, my housemate Josh is allergic to cats, and Garrett doesn't like cats because when he was younger, he got scratched by some, and he is just prejudiced now. So I didn't want to, I pick my battles. So I was like, okay, well, we can just get a little black dog and name her Luna. But she is the most adorable little pup. I'm so excited to have her, but she's also so much work, which is why I am just so grateful that, I'm so grateful that Garrett's parents have let us come to the cottage to kind of get used to her, have her get used to us, because in the city we're also living in an apartment. So it's a bit more difficult to, take her out to her like potty training and things like that. It's a bit easier here. So that's why I'm sitting next to a window. This is already very blabby, but that's okay, because when I set the intentions for this podcast, one thing that was at the top of my priority list was that I did not want this to be feeling like an extra burden. Like I want to make podcasts because I get something out of it. Like I have fun recording them. I have fun editing them. I just love talking. I don't know if you've noticed this yet, but I love talking. And this just seemed like an amazing, next step, next thing to add to my list of things that I like doing. Because if you watch my YouTube videos, I make like, my minimum video length is like 20 minutes because I talk so much. But podcasts will let me talk even longer, and it's not weird. And people will kind of expect that I'm going to be talking longer. And also, another thing that I'm really excited about for this podcasting thing is that I'll be able to invite guests, and I'll be able to have conversations with people I really admire and people that I just look up to and want to learn from. And I don't know, like I remember, when did I start watching? The first time I ever listened to a podcast was the Joe Rogan Experience. I think that was about like 5 or 6 years ago. And I remember thinking like, that is my dream job. Like being able to just meet and have really amazing, deep conversations with people I think are cool. How amazing is that? I love connecting. I love connecting with people. So definitely be excited for all of the amazing people that I'll bring on here that will teach me things, that will teach you things. And it's just really going to broaden my, I don't know how to explain this, like not content list, but like content field. Like I feel like up till this point, my YouTube channel has been very much focused on the brown girl experience, or at least that's where most of my audience has come from. And although, yes, that is what has been at the forefront of my mind, like going through the process of disownment, dealing with the family issues, dealing with the other things that come along with that, I am now feeling like I'm at a place in my life where I'm kind of detaching a little bit from that identity, because I feel like for the past 5 years, that was like, anytime I would wake up in the morning, that was the first thing that I thought about was like these problems that I had as a result of this whole cultural situation. But that is not, I'm still very involved in this space, and I'm going to continue to be involved. Wow. I can talk, I promise. I am going to continue to be involved in the brown girl healing space, but mostly through my coaching practice now at this point, because I feel like I have kind of gone through the darkest depths of that whole situation, and I've finally have been able to like come out to the light side and to finally reframe everything that has happened to me, all of the trauma that I went through. I'm now able to reframe it to a perspective of like where I feel very grateful for what I went through. Whereas like before, I felt so victim, like I had such a victim mentality. I would always think like, why me? Like, why do I have to go through this? Why can't I have a normal family? Why can't my parents just support me? Can't they see that my boyfriend Garrett is literally the best person ever? How can they not see that? Why do I have to deal with this? I hate my life. etc., etc., etc. And I would let my thoughts loop on that kind of path. But the past 6-7 months since March have been insanely transformative for me. And I will cover as much as I can in this podcast, which is kind of what I intended the topic of this podcast to be, was like kind of like my past 6-7 months. I think it's been 7. Hold on. March, April, May, June, July, August, September. Okay, yeah, 7. Okay, I'm glad I feel like that was just I kept switching it back and forth. 6 or 7. It's last 7 months since March, since COVID hit. I have just gone through intense transformation really, really quickly. And I would love to share with you all of what that has been like and what has even gone on. Hold on. Let me take a sip of my cacao, which I will also definitely talk about at some point. I'm just not really ready to share because I feel like I want to be a little more educated on this drink, the ceremonial drink from South America, before I go and blab about it to everyone, because I want everyone to be acquainted with it. Like, I want people to be introduced to it while also learning about the roots of where it came from, to preserve the traditions and to, just really credit the cultures that have developed this ritual. But hold on, let me take a sip. Okay, now I forgot what my original loop was. Like, what was I even talking about? Oh, yeah. This is fun. I kind of feel like I'm having a conversation with myself, but I'm also aware of the fact that I'm being recorded. And then I'm also thinking about like people in the future listening to me right now. And my mind is just going, like, it's just getting a little distracted, but I'm going to try my best. Because this is chill. This is a chill thing for me. This is not work. This is something that I want to do. These are just reminders to myself, because I have to keep making sure that, because I'm also like, one of the things that I've also been doing a lot recently is reframing my relationship to content creation, because making YouTube videos, making any type of content at all where I get to share my thoughts and opinions with the public, I find that so fulfilling. But it's also the way that I've learned to post, and the way that the mainstream kind of social media coaches and just people who are influential in that space, the way that they teach it has caused me to feel a lot of pressure about what I'm doing and making sure that I have consistency and all, like it becomes like a chore, and so that's also one of the reasons why I haven't been posting that much content, because I am just trying to really figure out how to detach from that kind of a mindset where it feels like a chore, and to reconnect with the mindset where it's for fun. It's something that I enjoy doing. It's something that helps me grow. It's something that helps other people grow, so we love going on tangents, don't we? Yes. Okay. Where was I? Okay. So I think I was talking about the fact that I was in a victimhood mentality with my South Asian brown girl experience. And then over the past 6 months, through everything that I have experienced, it has completely flipped. And now I am so rooted in the mindset that just of like pure gratefulness for everything that has happened to me, including like the worst moments of my life. It's just like, it seemed very much like the trauma that I experienced was for a higher purpose. Like, it was kind of like an initiation process in a way to enable me to grow into the person that can do all the type of work that I'm doing now, like including making just the fact that I was able to make videos even in the last couple of years and touch the lives of so many people. I still get messages every single day from people just being able to watch my videos when they're feeling low and instantly being just consoled, and then I was able to take it one step further, because now I've started the coaching business, which has enabled me to work one-on-one with people who admire people who admire me. I don't know, I feel weird about saying that, but I mean people who kind of resonate with the way that I live my life and the way that my journey has gone and the way that I think about things. It's so amazing now, and even extra fulfilling to be able to, like, right now I'm working with 3 clients and we're doing the 6-week program. If any of you are listening to this and you want more information about any of my coaching services, you can visit my website. It is reprogramming.com. You can find it just in the links of my Instagram. You can find it. I'll probably link it in the description of this podcast as well, but it's my full name.com. You can find everything there. But I'm working with 3 girls right now, and it's surreal to be able to just hear their stories, be super present for them, hold the space for them, validate them for everything that they're feeling, and also kind of get a sense of where they are on their path of like liberation is how I like to think about it. And like remembering like how I was there not so long ago. Like every single thing that they bring up with me, it's like, oh, I totally resonate with that. I totally relate to that. That is something that took me a long time to deal with, because I didn't have anyone that had gone ahead of me on this kind of a path where it's like I'm kind of going against the wishes of my family and everything like that as a South Asian woman. I didn't have anyone kind of to look up to as a role model, just because no one came into my field of awareness. Like I'm meeting so many women that have gone through this, and it's amazing. But also just seeing my clients be going through that, and me being able to be like, hey, you know what? You actually don't have to spend months like I did trying to figure out how to get over this pattern that you're experiencing, how to get over these feelings of guilt, how to get over these feelings of shame. Like, what are the specific things you can do? What are the how can you kind of hack it in a way? It's not really a hack. It's just kind of like building awareness as to what's going on, and then reframing the way that we think about the current situation at hand and flipping it around to make it a more optimistic way of looking at it, and therefore like going through that step by step with everything that's bothering us, and then kind of coming out on the other side with just a renewed, like, I guess just like a reset version of the way where you are. Does that make sense? I feel like I just blabbed a bunch of words that didn't make sense, but it's like you work on each of those worries step by step. You reframe them to a more positive way of looking at it, because in every situation, no matter what it is, there's a light side and there's a dark side. And for the most part, just the way that we have grown up in our societies, it's nobody's fault specifically, but we're quite pessimistic, you know, and those, like, a lot of the conditioning that we have grown up with is pessimistic. So naturally, whenever we are confronted with new situations, when our brain processes them, it automatically, at least for me, I'm sure a lot of people can relate, but I obviously don't want to speak for everyone, we automatically think of like the worst perspective, you know, like that's like what our default tends to be. It's like, what's the worst perspective? So it's like me taking 5-6 years to be able to be like, oh, actually me going through this whole situation with my family, guess what? And once I get out of it in a couple of years, I'll be able to help people through the same thing, and it'll be very fulfilling. Like, obviously that is not where my mind went right when at the beginning of this whole thing. Like, it felt like the world was closing in, like I was dying, like I didn't think that I was like suicidal, but then over time I healed, and I'm still healing. I'm by no means completely healed from everything that I've been through, but over time I was able to heal by going step by step with every little thing and being like, okay, how can I flip this to make it, to see it from a lighter perspective? How can I flip this so I see it as like an optimistic thing, as something that is meant to be, as something that is actually for my highest good, even though it doesn't feel like it right now. So it's amazing that through my coaching work, I can just accelerate that process for people, so they don't have to do so much guesswork. I can just be like, oh yeah, I was there. This is what I used to think. I used to think exactly like you about this particular little situation. And now this is what my perspective is on that same situation. They download that new perspective, and all of a sudden they have they just feel so much lighter, because now they get to think about, they have a new set of thoughts that they are able to access. That because okay, so I'm just seeing visuals right now because I want to explain I feel like whenever we are confronted with a situation, so a pattern or a cycle in our life, our minds have kind of predetermined kind of pathways that it goes down once it's exposed to that stimulus. So, for example, a good analogy that the thing I'm visualizing is think of a slope of like a hill, okay? And then there's fresh snow that has just fallen on the hill. And as we move through our lives, we have different sleds of thought patterns that just slide down the hill, and then over time you kind of get some of those, I'm losing my vocabulary apparently, but the paths, they get deeper and deeper depending on how much the sled has kind of moved over it. So the thoughts that are hardest for us to break, they are the paths that are the deepest, because anytime the sled comes even close to that path, it just automatically gets sucked in because it's such a worn out way to go. And so the way to heal is to identify all of those different paths that we have gone through our whole life, that we are going through right now, the repetitive thought patterns that come through when exposed to a stimuli. We have to identify which one of those are actually for our best purpose and which ones aren't. And mindset coaching has really helped me with that. Did any of that make sense? I feel like I lost my train of thought and now I don't know where I started, but hopefully that kind of made sense. But you know what I'm trying to say, right? It's like we do have the ability to kind of cause fresh snowfall and to reset the pathways so that we can access a more optimistic mindset by going step by step and accessing more optimistic pathways or sled troughs or whatever that make us feel good, as opposed to just going with what we have gone with our whole lives, which very likely is a negative thought pattern. I feel like I should give you an example. So, okay, this is a really simple example. I don't know why it popped up into my head, but so think about when you're sitting, it's sunny, it's the summertime, there's sun on your face, you're feeling good, you're feeling warm, you're just feeling you're glowing from the inside out. Now imagine a bee comes and starts flying around you. So now your mind has two different places that it can go with this bee experience. The bee is the stimuli. One thing is, I feel for the most part, even me, everyone's kind of default reaction is to kind of all of a sudden go get on edge about the bee, being automatically their thoughts are oh shit, it's gonna sting me, and that's where our minds just automatically start going down that thought pattern. It's oh my God, the bee is gonna sting me. And so all of a sudden we tense up, we all of a sudden cannot enjoy the present moment anymore because we're just so worried about making sure that the bee doesn't land on us and sting us. And it really causes a lot of stress. That experience is not something that feels good. It's not something that we prefer to have. But if we are able to identify that thought pattern whenever we see the stimulus of a bee coming into our near our bodies, if we can identify that as something that happens, and we let ourselves kind of think through that for a little bit, kind of exploring that kind of observing that reaction and sorting through it in our minds. So for example, if I'm identifying that this is how I react, and it's like, okay, I don't really want to feel so upset about bees being around me, because at a certain time during the season, it's just bound to happen, and I'm not going to waste my time just feeling scared. And then maybe I'll think about thoughts like, okay, what are the reasons why I shouldn't be scared of bees? Or like, what are the positive things about bees that I can think about instead? And one of the things is I've never been stung by a bee or a wasp or anything, and they have been around me a lot. And the way I do that is I just don't really swat at them. I just kind of stay still. And I'm sure I've been lucky, but realistically, like, I don't get stung that often. I don't think that it's that high of a risk for me to get stung unless I'm actively like aggravating the bee or the wasp. I keep saying bee, but you know what I mean, like bees, wasps, like any stingy type of thing that looks like that. Another thing you can do to process that, to reframe that, is by thinking about all of the benefits of having wasps and bees. It's a bit easier to know the benefits of bees. For example, they produce honey. They are very important they're very important entities that maintain our ecosystems. Things like that. It's just like kind of creating lists that just giving your mind thoughts that it could go choose instead of going into that like default fright thought path, sled path. Now does it make sense what I'm talking about? I hope so. So that is just like a very simple way, like you can retrain your brain and reprogram the default programs by just observing them and kind of installing new software onto them. I love the analogy of just coding, because for those of you that don't know, I did study, like I have a computer science degree. That's what I studied at university. And so now that I'm kind of moving into the field of, what is it? Psychology, I guess. Just like learning about the way that our minds work, how to move through the human experience, things like that. I find the programming analogies coming in so handy. So I don't know how I got to that, but I think that was a really nice piece of information, wasn't it? I'm gonna sip my cacao again. Anyway, so that's what I've been, the past 6 and 7 months has just, everything that I've been exposed to and things like that has just made me very aware of the fact that I do have the power to reprogram my mind, and all it just takes is some, not discipline necessarily, like discipline can be a part of it, but it's really just desire, right? Like if you want to make sure that you're not stressed about bees all the time, if you really, really don't want to be stressed about bees all the time, then you will do everything in your power to make sure that you're not stressed, and then you can start implementing some of those practices like reframing thoughts and things like that. That is like, it's just like, I feel like the best way to describe it, I know everyone always throws around the concept of spiritual awakening, but for me, I have always been spiritual because I grew up religious. I always did believe in a higher power. And then there was a period of a couple of years where I was just like, well, I believe in a higher power, I think, because everything is too harmonious for there not to be some general, like, natural harmonious flow kind of running under life and everything that we see. But because I no longer resonated with Islam, and I didn't resonate with that higher power being some man-like figure in the sky, or like some just like individual entity type of thing that's controlling everything and judging everyone, because I didn't resonate with that, I started kind of exploring like atheism and trying to really fit myself into that mold of like, sorry about that, my camera stopped recording. These are just the troubleshooting things that come along with doing new things. So anyway, no worries. Where was I? think I was talking about the fact that after I kind of detached myself from Islam, I started going down or trying my best, honestly, to go down the route of atheism and being like, nope, I'm not going to deal with anything spiritual, anything religious. Fuck all of that. None of it's like stupid to believe religion. It's stupid to be spiritual. And this was really easy for me to do because all of my peers and everyone around me, there wasn't really anyone that was spiritual or religious or anything. Like all of the people that I had surrounded myself with were very like, science is the only answer ever. Only science. We believe in science and that's it. If science can't currently prove something, therefore it is not real. It can never be real, you know? Of course, not everyone really had that. And I'm sure a lot of people actually can be spiritual, but they're kind of in like a spirituality closet, if that makes sense, because they're afraid of being judged for their beliefs. And so it was easy for me to go down that path of trying to fit myself into like an atheism, agnosticism type of world or sense or perception of reality. But again, it still felt like that void that had been left from religion just was not being filled, and it was just in the back of my mind. Like I just didn't resonate that there could be nothing, you know, like that there is no harmony or pattern or anything, and that all that I see is only what exists, and there's no higher meaning, there's no extra stuff. Like, you know what I mean? Like I love just stories, and I love symbolism, and I love meaning. I love meaning, you know, and I think a lot of us love meaning, but in the place that we've grown up in this time and age, there's a lot of people that make it difficult for us to be open about the fact that we like assigning meaning to things, you know, like for me at least, the way like with the influences that I had, I almost felt dumb to want to assign any meaning to something that didn't necessarily have an obvious innate meaning. And that really hindered my spiritual growth because I blocked myself from ever exploring anything that could be like, I just never wanted to be wrong about anything. And so I kept myself safe by being like, I'm not going to believe in anything that can be debated. I'm not going to ever express that I do like think about any of that. Like anything that I say is my opinion, anything that I believe in, it has to have consensus with everybody, because I just don't like conflict. But in March, early March, late February, I randomly this is like the biggest full circle moment of my life, and this is what has really started this. I don't know if you've noticed, but if you go onto my videos on my YouTube channel and you go and see like what my demeanor was, how I acted, how I spoke, what my voice sounded like, what my tone was, there is quite, at least to me, there seems to be a very clear difference in like my vibe from before March. Like go watch a video from like last like October 2019 or November 2019. That was a state in my life where I was just very burnt out, like literally just draining myself every day because I was just not really doing everything that I like doing, but I was pressuring myself a lot. And then watch one of those and then compare it to any of my videos after April 2020. And what are the differences? To me, there seems like a huge, massive difference, because in March and late February-ish, I all of a sudden got access to this whole community of people that I honestly didn't even know they existed. And it was just people that thought in the way that I thought, that liked assigning meaning to things, that were spiritual in the same way that I was spiritual. It's like, because I was after I left Islam and before I have kind of like found my community within the spirituality community, I thought that there was no one that I mean, I'm sure there were people, but I didn't know how to find them. Like I didn't have the vocabulary that I know now to be able to find like-minded people, because I was like, I am spiritual, but I'm secular spiritual. Like none of my spiritual beliefs are locked into any organized religion. And yeah, like back then when I was in that state, because I was like that because all I saw were either people who are religious or people who are just like secular spiritual but didn't really talk about it. Maybe they did a meditation practice, maybe they did a yoga thing like I did, but it didn't go much deeper than that. There wasn't like any deeper reality exploration, you know? It was just like, well, this is what it is. Yes, meditation helps, that's a spiritual practice, and yoga helps, this is a spiritual practice, but there wasn't like any mythology or symbolism that I resonated with, and I didn't have access to anything that I did resonate with, because it seemed like anything that I was being exposed to was all like related to spirituality, was coming from a religious perspective, and I didn't like religion anymore. So, but anyway, in full back to what my full circle moment is, I don't know how long I should make this video, because I haven't even started talking about everything that went on in the past 6 months, but I am just going to kind of try to give you the cliff notes. I'm trying to cap this at an hour. It's about 40 minutes, a little under 40 minutes. But anyway, late February, one of the girls that I have admired for so many years, she has helped me so much indirectly, because just through her YouTube videos and through her social media posts. Her name is Mika Francis, and back when I was really in like the dark depths of my, I don't know, family situation, my confusion with my spirituality, things like that, I was exposed to her channel and I was exposed to her presence via YouTube videos. And she made this video once called Spirituality 101. And in that video, she basically talked about the type of spirituality that I kind of practice now, very secular, but also like full of meaning and full of fulfillment. She talked about that, and she gave some books to read, you know, like she mentioned some books. And from that video, I discovered the book, The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. And that just was like, whoa. It was like, that was like one book that I read that completely just like shifted my perspective and like moved me into a completely new, realm of reality. Because before, like basically, if you haven't read the book, The Power of Now, the whole book is just about the fact that the only thing that really exists is the current moment. It's the now, you know, like the past is an illusion, the future is an illusion. The past has existed, but it no longer exists now. The future will exist, but it does not exist now. And every time, even when we move into the future, it's still the now. I'm not going to spend this podcast explaining that whole concept, but it's pretty, like, you can go pretty deep with it as well. But highly recommend the book, The Power of Now. And that was like mind-blowing to me, because I just never thought about it before. I was just like, whoa, he's so right. Oh my God, what? That's so true. There is only one moment. There is only the now exists. That's the only thing that really exists. And he does talk about in the book as well about like, you're always safe in the now, you know? Like when we have anxiety about the future, often we find that once whatever we've been anticipating, by the time we get there, it's actually not as bad as we had been thinking up in our minds, you know? And so it was just like, I was going through a lot, and to be given that gift of knowledge that I am safe in the now was insane. And it was monumental in my growth. And after that, I just started going headfirst into like anything that I could find about similar teachings. And that is how I have developed my sense of spirituality. It all started from The Power of Now, and the way that it speaks about a higher purpose to life and like a way to navigate life without having the fear-based punishment model that was taught to me through Islam. at least the way that it was taught to me. Of course, I always say this every time I mention Islam because people get upset. Islam and any other religion can be practiced in thousands of ways. Like there are base teachings, but everyone's interpretation can be different. The way that I was taught Islam, it was very fear-based, and it caused me to fear life. It caused me to live in fear of God, an invisible God that was judging me all the time. It caused me to it was just not a nice way to live. It was not a nice headspace to live in. But the Power of Now gave me access to a way of thinking that kind of helped me navigate my human experience while staying away from that kind of realm of religiosity. Is that a word? Even if it is a word, I don't know if it fits here, but whatever. I think I got my point across. So Mika Francis, that bitch, I'm just kidding. Mika Francis introduced me to this path of spirituality that I'm still on now, just through that one video that she posted. And at the time, she also was huge for me, a huge inspiration for my YouTube channel as well, because she was just the first person that I ever saw online that was just fully authentic. Back then, she would post vlogs where she would cry on the camera, just go talking through whatever she was going through. And that was huge for me because it taught me that crying is okay, that releasing emotions like that is okay, that it's normal to cry. And she just gave me so much strength and was, I'm sure, a lot of the reason why I was able to handle all of the trauma that I experienced in those years was because I had someone like Mika to use kind of as a mentor. She was so, even back then, she was just so free and free-spirited, and just, she still is, by the way, but that was the first person that I really saw that really embodied that sense of just, I fucking love life, let's fucking live. And I loved that. And so I kind of latched onto her. But anyway, in February of 2020, she posted an Instagram story. Granted, she is quite big on Instagram now. I think she is, I'm sure, 200,000 followers or something on Instagram. So she's quite big. And she posted a story that was promoting a group course that she was going to be taking. It was a self-growth course. It was a group course taught by a mindset coach named Adriana, who goes by Adriana Loves. And she posted a story being like, "Hey everyone, so I'm going to be doing this group self-growth course over the next couple of months. There's however many spots left. If you're interested, I highly recommend that you apply." Adriana was her coach for a while before that as well. They were doing one-on-one coaching. So she was like, "Adriana's great. She's helped me so much, and I really recommend experiencing her magic." And because I held Mika with such high regard, and because the reason I connected to Mika so much was because of our shared interests in self-growth and spirituality type of thing, I just had this sudden intuitive push to do it, And back in February, like I was saying, in October and November, I was quite burnt out because I was working as a web developer, and because I thought that's the only way I could make money, because that's what I did my degree in. I had to be a code monkey basically and just stare at a computer all day. But that's just not, now I know that that was actually causing a lot of distress upon my mind and body, because I'm just not someone who can stay quiet all day. I really thrive when I'm talking to people. I really thrive when I'm expressing myself. And yes, I can code, and yes, I enjoy it at times, but it's not something that I like doing as a full-time kind of gig. But because of that as well, I wasn't making enough money to pay my costs of living. Garrett was still financially supporting me a lot, and I knew that this course that Mika had suggested, it was probably going to cost some money. But regardless, like there was that internal push that I couldn't ignore. And so I filled out the application form. And another part of me was also like, oh, well, Mika has so many followers. You're probably never going to get accepted into this program, even if you do want to do it. But so I signed the form and just waited to see what happens. The next day, and then anyway, it doesn't matter how the rest of it went down, but basically within a couple of days, I was signed up, and it was like I was taking a investment. I was basically taking a risk with even spending how much spending how much money I did on that course. It was still a risk to me because I didn't feel at the time that I had enough money to be affording things like that. But at the same time, that intuitive nudge to do it was so strong that I couldn't ignore it. And below all the stress and anxiety of like being broke, and fearing that I wasn't going to have enough money to like live properly, or, there was still that like underlying sense of like, no, this is what you're supposed to be doing right now. Don't worry about it. So I signed up with that. We think we had like 1 or 2 calls, group calls, started getting into it. And all of a sudden COVID hit, while we were in the program. And that was the biggest blessing to me. COVID, everyone always asks like, how has it been for you? And I always feel kind of bad because COVID and quarantine has just been the biggest blessing in my life, because it really gave me a chance to just make a blank slate, clear everything off in my life, and just start from scratch, basically. Like I went from any activity that I was doing before COVID, I was able to completely like stop it, through different processes. Like I stopped working as a web developer, and I just gave myself so much space and so much time to be at home and just to figure things out, while I was also doing this self-growth course. And this course, the way that Adriana was able to present the ideas of spirituality and metaphysics that I really enjoy exploring now. Back then I was very much still skeptical about everything, because like I said, I didn't want to kind of get into that place where I'm just like, I didn't want to look dumb to anyone. That's always been something that I just wanted to be smart. Like I wanted everyone to think that I'm intelligent, and how could an intelligent person be interested in anything that cannot be proven currently by science, or like by mainstream science, So, but anyway, the way that she presented the info, it just really got me out of my shell. And she was able to connect ideas in ways that just made so much sense to me. And I think that if it was anyone else, I wouldn't have gotten so much out of it. But it was just the way that she talks, the way that she delivers content, her vibe, everything was just perfect. And it unlocked like a whole new realm of living, where all of a sudden I was able and allowing myself to explore this world of spirituality that I was too scared to explore before, like witchcraft, like just law of attraction, all of these kind of practices where you choose to look at reality in a different way, than what we're taught to believe by default. So I think I will talk about manifestation and everything like that in another episode, because I've got so many thoughts on that, and I can also express it in a way where it makes sense to people who are skeptical, just like I was, who used to judge. I used to judge people. I feel so bad about this now, but I think I used to do this because I was so, like, because I didn't let myself explore all of these non-mainstream concepts. I was mad when I saw other people like kind of embodying it so freely, like anyone who was into astrology, anyone that was into tarot. I have tarot decks now. Anyone who was like crystals. I have crystals now. literally, like, if you had told me this like back in November, I would have laughed, because I was so resistant to this stuff, because I just thought it was so stupid. How could anyone believe that a crystal could do anything, you know? Like, how, like, tarot cards, like, that's so dumb. Like, they can't predict your future. And tarot cards are another great thing that I can talk about in a podcast or a video, probably a video. It's more accessible that way for a larger audience, I think. But just side note, tarot cards don't really predict your future. They just kind of give you a snapshot of what is going on in the present. And that helps you kind of, you use, so for example, this card, the Knight of Wands, they have different, I'm showing the camera, by the way, for anyone who's listening to the audio. This card, there's symbols on, there's a photo, there's like a suit and a number, or like a, you know what I mean. And each card holds different symbolic meaning, and you can use them to kind of get a better understanding of where your mind's at, because the symbols on the cards kind of prompt you to start thinking about different things. And it's been a huge tool in my life. But all of Adriana was able to open me up to this whole world of these amazing self-growth tools that I never let myself look at or even try to understand before, because I was just so scared. But through that, like, through everything, the crystals, the affirmation cards, the cacao, the tarot, it's just like my self-growth journey is just like progressing faster and faster and faster, because all of these tools are helping me realize so much about myself and realize so much about reality. But anyway, so I think the main thing that I've learned, like if I was to summarize the main message of the past 6-7 months of my life, has been that everything that happens in my reality, everything that I perceive, is a choice in a way. It's like, yes, different things happen to me. There's a lot of external circumstances that I can't necessarily control. For example, COVID. But this is so cliche, but now it really hit me. Like the truth of this is that you can't really always control what exactly happens to you, but you can control how you react to it. So COVID being something that was so it shook everyone up. It shook the whole world up. It shook up the way that I moved through life on a daily basis. But instead of getting depressed about that, I was able to find a community of people that helped me reframe the experience of even COVID. Like, instead of thinking of COVID being something like, oh, I don't even know what's going to happen. Like, are we ever going to go back to a normal way of living? Things like that. Like, instead of being so down about all of the loss that COVID had brought, I instead was given perspective, like given a different perspective by the community that I had found through Adriana and all the other girls in that mastermind program. I also at that time joined a cacao circle with and cacao is something that I found through another YouTuber that I really love named 𝙨𝙪𝙗𝙧𝙞𝙗𝙗. I hope that's how you pronounce it properly, but she's a painter, and she introduced me to cacao through one of her videos. I joined the Cacao Laboratory virtual circles that ran every day during the most of the first wave of COVID here in Ontario. And all of a sudden, like, there was all these people around me that didn't view life like a chore. Like, they saw life as a gift and as something that was to be revered. Is that the word? Like, all these people were just so optimistic, and they were happy, and they weren't just fake happy. Like, they were glowing with happiness. You could really tell that whatever they were doing was working for them. And they, being able to experience COVID through the perspectives of these people who were so happy, it gave me all of these, it's so, I'm getting tired of talking now, so it's harder for me to form the sentences. But for example, instead of seeing COVID as all of the things that I lost, I was able to see COVID as this really transformative period of my life where I was able to really pause and reflect on where my life was going, how I was living, and really start taking action and moving my life towards the life that I really wanted to be living instead. And so community has been so huge for me. I have always been like on my self-growth journey. I've always been like, oh, I'm going to go solo because I don't need anyone's advice, because no one knows anything, or no one knows what's best for me except for me. And that's true. But the reason I thought that was because in my past life, in my past as a person growing up with strict religion around me and strict cultural norms, everyone around me, whoever gave me advice, it was just advice that I didn't resonate with. And if I didn't follow that advice, people would get upset with me. So when I started my self-growth journey, I was like, no, fuck everyone else. Like, I'm going to do this on my own. I don't need anyone to tell me what to do. I don't need any help, whatever. And I was so resistant to even joining any communities. But through Adriana and through the cacao circle and everything, it just opened me up to a whole world of like, oh my gosh, I could have found this earlier, and oh my gosh, I would have felt the healing happen so much faster. But I also believe that everything happens in divine timing. I found Adriana, I found me. Oh, I forgot to explain what the full circle moment was. So anyway, this is going to be a little tangent, but back to like joining the course. I joined the course and all of a sudden I was in this group where Mika, who was the person who had originally introduced me to the version of secular spirituality that I really enjoy practicing, she was in the course as a peer, and I was now all of a sudden, I was able to text her, I was able to talk to her face to face. It was so insane. And she also kind of like symbolically like passed the torch on to Adriana, I am now, like, I think I have a couple more weeks with her. I've been like just working with her this whole year, and it's just been monumental having a coach and having a community of people that can help guide me. But as a result of this new way of thinking where it's like, oh, I can actually control my life, and that all I need to do is change my perceptions on things, into assigning meaning to everything that makes me feel good, making sure that I'm always feeling good in every moment. I'll definitely probably, I will probably expand on all of these concepts in later episodes, but this is just, I didn't make any notes, and so I'm just kind of going with the flow of whatever comes up. But I've made so many intense changes. I've changed my career. I've changed the way that I thought my career was going to go. I've changed my concept of what success is. I've just changed, like, my relationship with myself has changed a lot. I am even more in love with myself than I used to be. Like, everyone always says that, or people always message me saying like I'm like the queen of self-love, and it's true. It's because I had to be going through what I went through. I had to be able to rely on myself. I had to trust myself because it felt like I was alone. But my relationship with myself is even stronger now, which is amazing. And I'm changing my perceptions, or I'm changing my relationship to social media. I'm really changing my relationships to content creation. I'm changing my relationships and whatever concepts I hold in my mind about what work is, what work should look like, what entrepreneurship is, what entrepreneurship should look like. And there's just been a lot of changes. And now I have a little dog, a little puppy that I intended to bring in. Like, I wrote about her in March or April as like something to manifest, and she's finally come into my life. And every single thing that I have wanted to manifest, that I kind of intended to manifest back earlier this year, it has all now pretty much happened. And yeah, it's just been amazing, and I'm so grateful for everything. The past 6 months have just been insane, and I have also developed, if you follow me on Instagram, I've also developed like a really big interest in metaphysics and thinking about reality in a very like spacey way, because it's just so much fun, you know? It's so much fun seeing, for me at least, like it just makes my human experience just so much more enjoyable when I truly believe that I am controlling everything in my experience, or not fully controlling everything, but at least that some version of me, like maybe my higher self or something, is controlling everything happening to me, and that everything that is happening is for my highest good, no matter what it is, no matter how bad it looks, it's always working out best case scenario. That has been my motto for the past 7 months, and it's been amazing. And that's also like, because I've been going through such intense transformation so quickly, and I've been bringing in so many new things into my life, for example, starting the coaching business now with Luna, and I guess even this podcast, there's this little period that I am just starting to come out of now, I think, where it's like, yes, I brought all these things in, but there was an integration period where I had to make sure that, I don't know, just like getting it all to fit in with whatever was already existing in my life and without stressing myself out too much. So that's why I've kind of let myself off the hook with the YouTube videos and things like that, and content creation, because I just didn't have the mind space for it, because I'm just going through so much. But yeah, excuse me, I'm like hiccuping. That's an hour. I feel like at the end I may have gotten kind of incoherent. But I also just feel myself getting tired. It's like when I talk too much, I go very much into my head. Does that make sense? Like, I don't know how to explain it. Like, it's not a headache, but I feel very like spaced out if I talk for too long. So I'm going to end this podcast here. I hope you enjoyed whatever I talked about. I honestly don't even remember at this point. I'm excited to listen to it again while I'm editing. But yeah, please look forward to the new episodes. I am hoping, like, my long-term plan, I'm not going to stress myself out, like I said, but hopefully I would love to record at least 2 episodes a month. So like having a YouTube video up one week, and then having a podcast up the following week, and then another YouTube video, another podcast. That is the schedule that I've kind of planned out in my mind. Hopefully I get to that at some point in the near future. But yeah, this is definitely something that I really enjoyed. I really enjoyed just talking and seeing what comes up. It's really interesting. It's like I'm basically processing my concepts in my mind in real time. So that's cool. This podcast will be up it will be distributed on you'll be able to find it on YouTube, and then you'll also be able to find it on like Spotify and Apple Podcasts and anywhere else or most of the main podcast networks. So yeah, it's gonna be a real thing. I just think this first episode is, I don't know, as I kind of learn more about podcasting and my relationship to podcasting, I feel like I might get more niche into what I talk about, and I might have a better description of this podcast than what I have now, which is basically just something to do with like exploring the human experience or something, but that's so broad. I sense that this podcast is going to be an outlet for me to really discuss a lot of the spirituality and reality exploration concepts that I've been learning. But I think that might not happen for a couple of episodes, because there's still a part of me that is uncomfortable or insecure about that. But I'm working on it, and I think I've made a lot of progress since March. Made a lot of progress since last week. So yes, things are looking really amazing here in a Reach world. And I hope you follow me along. Yes. Also, did you hear the music at the intro? And I think I will play it again at the end. My lovely boyfriend Garrett was so kind, and he created that track for me, and I just love it so much. It's like so mystical. Oh, that's like a word that I should have used. I am very into mysticism now. I love that shit. It's so much fun. And it adds so much, like, sprinkles so much fun and lightness into my life. But yeah, he's amazing. Garrett's amazing. I'm sure Garrett says hi. I will have him as a guest on my next episode probably, or like an episode after that. Definitely soon. But I just wanted to make sure that the first episode I did was me, just to kind of set the stage, of what this podcasting project for me is going to be about. And yeah, just getting used to the mic, and now I'm just blabbering on. So yes, anything you would like to follow me on Instagram at areege.c, areege.c. I am most active on that social media platform. I have all my updates on there. If you are interested in working with me through my coaching program, I can't wait to meet you. You can find that on my website, areege.com. And then obviously I'm available on my YouTube channel, Areege, UHREEJ. I just recently hit 3,000 subscribers on there. How amazing is that? Amazing. So amazing. Can you believe that I hit 1,000 last December or late November, and now I'm already at 3,000? Amazing. I love it. I'm so happy. Okay, that's it. I'm going to stop. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching if you are watching the video version. And I love you so much, and I hope to record another episode soon. Yay, I'm so happy I did this. Mwah! Love you.